Teacher Survivalist Module 1, Collecting Your Booty of Love, Reminding Yourself of Your Impact and Purpose. Module 1 is a fun experiment in understanding what your booty of love is. In this 3-part module, you'll gain an introduction to booty of love, referencing all of the positive comments, feedback, notes, emails you've gotten from students over your time as a teacher or administrator. Then we'll look at some personal examples of what students have actually said to me so that you can gain a better understanding of what to look for. Finally, we'll bring it all back together and discuss how this makes up your timeline as a teacher and how your timeline as a teacher is so important and shows how your students have been with you through every step of your journey. It's a reminder of the impact you have made over your seasons of teaching. So my hope to you over this module is that you'll really get a deeper reflection and understanding of the impact you've had throughout your career so far. In Module 1 companion resource, you'll be gathering some of your booty of love, previous notes that students have left you, and creating kind of like a booty board, if you will, that you value and you've gotten throughout your time of teaching, and give it one central place so that you can easily access those reminders on the hard days. You don't need to try so hard. Realize you're right where you need to be. You had it from the very start. Today is going to be kind of a sweet little sentiment of a day. We're going to go in and we're going to look at kind of reflecting over teaching and looking back on some former students and coworkers and just really kind of tying that into staying motivated in your daily routine in life and fulfilling those reminders to yourself that what you're doing is so important and that it does matter even on the hardest days. So I hope you enjoy what we're about to discuss. It's just a reminder that I need and that I think we all need sometimes that we're on the right track, we're heading in the right direction, and we're doing our best job. So from where I'm sitting today, it's kind of a gloomy, rainy, wintry kind of day. And I really love these days. I use it as if we hit the pause button and just kind of take it easy and sit and watch a show or journal or just reflect. And that's really what we're going to be doing today. I remember years ago when I was a few years into my teaching, it really might have been the second year of my teaching, if that. And I had gone to an event in school where one of the other teachers was doing an introduction and speaking to the faculty. And I remember I still was uncertain about this teacher. I wasn't sure if I was buying what they were selling. And all that means is, when you meet a new coworker or a new teacher, depending on what background you're coming from, I have to figure them out before I kind of buy in, before I would, in the business land, promote them or say, that person's a great teacher. I really love what they're doing. And this teacher I was still figuring out, but I remember vividly that day, it was a male, him saying, he wasn't talking to the teachers, he was talking to the students, and he was just saying, guys, I don't think you realize the power that you have and the opportunity that you have for your teachers. And he said, if you get a chance, thank a teacher. Tell them not just thank you, but tell them thank you for what? What do they do that makes you feel great? Or what do they do that enhances your education? But tell them. And he said, when I started teaching, I started to get a couple of these notes from students, and it would really just change my entire day. And let's face it, we don't always get feedback from admin or even our coworkers and things like that. So those small moments with students make a huge difference. But the teacher said that he had started a little space in the back of his drawer in the back of the drawer of his desk, and he would keep all of those notes. And on the really hard days, on the days that he got maybe a negative review or feedback from a parent that wasn't desirable, or just kids were chaotic, or just was feeling off, instead of kind of dwelling on that, he would reach into that drawer and pick out all those pieces of paper, the little pink Post-its and the bright green, yellow slips of paper, and then the index card. And because honestly, that's what I'm looking at right now, are these cut up little messes of paper that I cherish very much. But he would reach in there, he'd read through them and remember why he does what he does and why he feels so passionate about working with these kids every day. Because let's face it, one parent, one kid, one coworker can ruin your entire week with one thing, saying one thing, even though you might have hundreds of pieces of paper in your desk that praise you and what you're doing. So I took that to heart and immediately started that little space in the back of my desk. And when I left my brick and mortar school, I took some time to reflect and clear it out. And I put it into kind of a big photo album, like the kind my grandma used to have, where those pages peel back. Here, I'm going to make the noise for you because it's so nostalgic. You hear that? Ready? I'll do it again. There's just something about that sound. I'm sure some of you guys can feel it too, where it just brings back memories. It brings back memories of my aunts and uncles sitting around the table going over the old photo albums. Anyway, today's going to be really simple. I'm going to kind of just read you some of the notes that I have in my book. And sure, I don't care. It's to make me feel good. Today's kind of a weird day. The last 3 days have been a little weird, and I'm trying to find my center and get balanced. So my hope by the end of this is that if you don't already have this space in your desk or in your home or wherever, that you start it. And I would go as far to say that even the emails I've gotten from parents or students or whatever, I print them off. I always print them off. Because if it's not in front of you, you're never going to go back and look at it. So I'm going to just kind of read some of these and throw them in. And there's some funny ones because I'm a very honest teacher, which I'm sure you'll hear about soon. And I encourage my students to be honest. So I have a thick enough skin that I can handle that. And if they ever write me a note that's not desirable, I just throw it away. It's not like you don't have to save the bad ones. It's really just for the ones that are either going to make you laugh or that you'll hang on to for a long time. So we're going to dive right in and listen to some of these little notes. Ready? Go. I was asked to write a thank you note to a teacher, and you're the last person I thought about. LOL, just kidding. Thank you for looking out for me the past 4 years, Coyle. I appreciate everything you have done for me, like going to see me after the accident. You're more than a teacher, you're a friend. Thank you. P.S. Happy Holidays. Mr. Coyle, you said it wasn't for you, but I'm a free spirit. Free! Like America. Undying sarcasm directed at the system aside. I'm looking forward to taking Foods 2 next year. Addendum. Cheesecake. It's necessary for survival. We should learn it. Stat. Mr. Coyle, I hope your mom gets better soon. Love, your student, Savannah. Dear Mr. Coyle, thank you for being a part of my high school career. You were always one of my favorite and coolest teachers. You were one of the teachers who would actually want the class opinions and feedback. You were one of the reasons my 11th grade year was so much fun. From you getting pied in front of our class to you telling me that I could do better in your class, you made my high school days better. You're a great teacher. Keep being great. Sincerely. Dear Mr. Coyle, thank you for all the fun times in your class. I actually can't believe I'm being this nice to you. Thank you for always joking around with me. I'll always remember all the fun times we've had this year. Thank you, Mr. Coyle Smith, for all the support you gave me and my brother this year. Being new is not always fun. It can be very stressful. Thank you for helping my brother with his grade and informing me so that I can talk to him. Thank you for letting me retake some quizzes because I wanted to raise my grade, but turned out I just got an even worse grade. LOL. Thank you for teaching me so many different things about health and nutrition. It has really helped me focus on what I'm eating. Thank you for being such a great teacher. You were a caring teacher, and you asked me what's wrong one day when I was sad. On another note, don't be late. Be on the good side. Don't be an asshole. Mr. Coyle Smith, thank you for starting the Common Ground Club. The first meeting I went to as a freshman was a little dead. Then I wasn't able to come for a while. But over time, I was able to make friends through the club, and it even helped it to grow. I'm excited for this year, about its growth and accomplishments for next year. I thoroughly enjoyed my time knowing you as the cook teacher. Tim, I am so sorry things didn't work out for you this time. I know they will eventually. Thoughts and prayers. And one of my all-time favorites. When he says birthday booty, he means candy. I guess you're going to need the background info for that one. Whenever my students would have a birthday, I always had candy in my class. Usually I just had candy. And on their birthdays, I'd give them a little like treat bag and they could grab a handful of candy and take it with them. And we always called it birthday booty, like, a pirate's booty or whatever. But I never really thought too much about it, and that's just hilarious. It's one of my absolute favorites. I mean, that book includes all of those notes. There's tons and tons and tons more. There's pictures in there. There's all kinds of little cards and reminders. There's even CDs of things. And it just makes me so happy. It lights me up. It refreshes and re-energizes my teaching. It makes me want to continue to connect with these students. But I'd really like to kind of take a minute and debrief that a little bit. And I want you to see the big picture here. I want you to think about your work life, or for me, teacher life, and kind of, this is a history for me of 14 years in a building plus another 2 years virtually, or teaching virtually. And the students that you heard from there, I mean, you can kind of hear my evolution of my life. You really can they know about my life because they are part of it. They make up the timeline of who I am. And so some of those notes were mentions of my mom getting sick. And that was a 1.5 year long process where she eventually passed. And so I had 2 years of students. I had an entire season of coaching where those students were along with me on that journey. There's another one later on that talks about, it was actually from a teacher that talks about how sorry they are for me. And that one is in reference to a failed adoption that we had. The school that I work at actually threw us a baby shower, and we were expecting a child very, very, very soon. And it failed. Without going into all the detail, it failed. And that was really awful. It was really, really awful. And the good news is, I mean, that was one season of the adoption process and another season of my teaching. But the next year, my students got to experience me with a child. We had an infant that I brought home, and I was out of school on leave. So my coworkers and students were all part of that. And then 10 months later, we had another child. You'll even notice that in those notes, some of the students call me Mr. Coyle, some of them call me Mr. Coyle Smith, some call me Coach. Those are all different moments in my timeline. Before I was married, when I was married, when I was coaching, when I drove the school bus, when I was the Common Ground Student Club Advisor. I was also another club advisor as well of CCLA that some of those students were from. So this is an entire history of who I am as a teacher. And I think on some of the days that I get frustrated by not feeling seen by the people around me or by my administration, it's because they don't know that. They don't know my timeline. They don't know my history. And let's face it, some of these administrators are only there for 2 years, 3 years, and you're expected to be brand new to them, and they don't really have to prove anything to you. So be confident in who you are, be confident in your timeline, and always go back and look at it. You've accomplished so much, and you have built such strong relationships. You make the school, you make the building, you make the team, you make your people. And you are so strong in that. The flip side is, I'm a part of their timeline. You heard from one of my students there that I visited them after the accident. Yeah, I was there. I went to their house and I visited with them after a horrible car accident. Another student was in a terrible car accident. I visited that one. Another student lost her mom. Another student lost his mom. I mean, all of these are they're timelines that I've been part of. I've been there when my players have been adopted at the age of 15. We've been there through all of it, and they've been there for us through all of it as best they can. They are teenagers, but it's just such an amazing, unique experience, and that's a huge part of what maybe the public doesn't see and why we're so deeply invested and rooted in our teaching and who we are. And I'm not talking about any of the professional development or all the other extracurriculars and all those things. This is just the day-to-day relationship. This is surviving and thriving and teaching and being part of a community, or in many cases, schools will say being part of a team. And so if you're not feeling that way right now, go back and look at your notes. And if you are in a management position, or if you are an administrator and you're listening to this, take a second and reflect on what you've heard today and ask how you can build your team. Maybe the first thing that I would suggest is do a PD or a meeting where everybody brings 2 or 3 notes that somebody has given them over the years, a student, parent, whatever. And as the icebreaker, you guys just share them with each other. It lets everyone know how deeply you are appreciated. Every single teacher in that school has changed somebody's life. Don't forget it. So that's my challenge, to spend some time going back, locating those wonderful little nuggets that we have around the house or in our desk, and kind of collecting them and starting your own little treasure box. You don't need to try so hard.